Welcome to the Blk Storytellers. My name is Kevin Marable, and today we have an amazing actor with us. With almost a decade in this business, you may have seen her on such shows as Luke Cage, House of Cards, How to Get Away with Murder, The Shy. You might know her mostly from The Shy as Deja. We have Carolyn Michelle Smith. Carolyn, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. How's everything going for you?
Things are good. Things are really good right now. I'm excited.
Good, good.
Mhm.
Now, typically, I like to start every interview with a very simple question.
Yeah.
Some might find it difficult to answer, but it's a very simple question. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
That question is, who is Carolyn Michelle Smith?
Yes. Yes. Carolyn Michelle Smith. Carolyn Michelle Smith first is a child of God. Carolyn Michelle Smith is a daughter, a friend. She is an avid supporter of the LGBTQ community, of joy, of love. She is an artist. She is an entrepreneur. She is a visionary, someone who is deeply passionate about our people, our Black people, and making sure
Okay.
that we get seen, heard, respected, and loved the way that we deserve. That's what she is.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Now, you were born in the DMV, is that correct?
Yes, I was. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you currently reside here?
Actually, no, I'm in Los Angeles now. I love DC though. I miss DC quite a bit.
Okay. Okay. When was the last time you've been here?
Boy, let's see. Probably I would say about 3 years. It's been about 3 years.
Okay.
Wow, it's been a
Wow.
while. Too
Wow.
long.
Too long. Too long. Yeah, you got to come back sometimes, you
I have to. I have to.
know.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said earlier, you're actually entering into your eighth year in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
But before that, when did you know that acting was a craft that you wanted to pursue?
Man, I would say from a very young age, I would say probably around like 9 years old, I knew.
Wow.
I had a feeling. It was weird. I used to, around nine, my mom enrolled me in this like basketball summer camp type situation. And I really liked it at first because I loved how like active the girls were and I loved like the social aspect of it. And then when we started losing our games and they started getting upset, I was like, this ain't fun no more. And so she was like, well, is there anything else that you want to do? And I remember that same community center where we used to meet and have all our practices and stuff. I saw this sign that said, "Are you interested in singing, dancing, acting?" And immediately I knew I was like, well, ain't no fighting there. And so I thought that seems like it'll be a fun space. And I joined that children's theater community, and everything really just grew from there. I started acting around 9 in Atlanta, Georgia. So, yeah.
Wow. So okay, so early on, you were
Mhm.
involved in a lot of theater. Is that
Yes.
where you got your training? Did you take any acting classes as well?
Yeah. Well, so the way that was set up, I mean, it was a children's theater. So it was basically like there was a man who sort of ran everything, who was
Mhm.
kind of like my dad in a lot of ways. He even picked me up from school for rehearsals and stuff like that. Really great guy. And he would conduct classes. So we had like these musical theater classes where he would assign us a song to sing and perform. And, we would learn dance choreography and then maybe by the end of like a few months of working together, we'd put on like a musical review type thing. Just kids just performing,
Right,
you know?
right.
Um, but I loved it. And I loved the sense of community and I loved the way I felt. I loved having a different way to express myself. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so some of your early background in theater, you've been in Romeo and Juliet,
Hmm.
Soldier X, Hit the Wall, Serial Blackface, and Rich Girl.
Hmm.
Are you able to talk about any of those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so many of them. Serial Blackface was actually a workshop of a play off Broadway that was written by Janine Neighbors, who also wrote Swarm. She co-wrote Swarm.
Right.
Let's see, yeah, she's a
Yeah.
fabulous writer, great, great writer. And we both went to Juilliard, and she is just a really great writer. I really enjoyed working on it. Um, you know, I know Romeo and Juliet was my first Broadway show, and for me, it was a joy to be able to like see what is it that makes Broadway Broadway. And at the end of the day, what makes Broadway Broadway is the community, it's the people, um, it's we're all on the same schedule. You know what I mean? We all got Mondays off, you know. And I loved working on Romeo and Juliet because it was just a chance to exercise those chops and work with
Mhm.
some amazing, talented actors. Condola Rashad and Orlando Bloom were both our Romeo and our Juliet. They were just beautiful together. So
Wow.
I learned a lot. It was one of my first jobs out of grad school. So yeah,
Wow. Okay. And so from there, you began landing roles in television. You were in season one of and two of House of Cards.
yeah.
You were also in Luke Cage, How to Get Away with Murder, Russian Doll, Colony, and most recently, you star as Deja in The Shy. Can you tell us how that role came about for you?
Wow, it's a kind of a non-traditional story. You might be kind of surprised, but I'll definitely tell you. First of all, like hands down, this has been one of the best, most enjoyable, most rewarding opportunities of my creative career thus far. Like working with this cast on The Shy, all of our cast and crew, and especially so much love to Lena Waithe. Like I have
Yeah.
a lot of love for Lena. And you know, the way that the role came about, so I had been a big fan of Lena's. I actually auditioned for the pilot of The
Really?
Shy. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like it's funny how you can be with something for a long time and then like you're like, okay, well, I guess maybe that ship has sailed, and then the ship comes back and you're like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
It's all
yeah,
about
but
timing, you
it's
know?
all about timing, right?
Yeah.
It's all about timing. Um, it must have been about 2018. I auditioned for the pilot. I think I auditioned for one of the detectives in the pilot episode, and then for the role of Tracy, which
Mm,
Ty Davis beautifully plays now. Love Ty so much. Um, and then and then it didn't happen, and so I just thought, okay, well, I guess on to the next. That's what we do as actors.
right.
Um, and I remember being very obsessed with that pilot season, because it was one of the strongest pilots I'd read all
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
And I mean, I personally couldn't let it go. They might let me go, but I was like, I'm holding on this pilot. I'm teaching this acting class. My students are going to do scenes from the pilot episode of The Shy because it's the best thing out there right now. So they got to know it. You know what I mean? And so in the work that I do as an educator, I felt very connected to this story, shared it with my students, and then time passed, and then out of the blue, maybe like about 2021,
Mhm.
you know, I've done a lot of education work. I teach, I coach actors personally, acting specifically, and one of my friends reached out. She was like, "Hey, I heard the Hillman Grad Productions is looking to start this mentorship program, and it's a mentorship lab for actors, writers, creative execs. And you know, would you be interested in maybe being on the faculty there?" And I was like, "That's really big."
Yeah.
I was like, "That would be really dope. I really love and respect Lena and her work and her community, and that would be great to partner in that way, you know?"
Uh-huh.
I had my interview. I worked with a co-director, and we developed a whole curriculum for the mentorship lab program together. His name is Behzad Dabu, fantastic actor, acting coach for The Shy as well,
Mm,
and helps to lead the mentorship lab for the acting track.
mm.
And we met Lena via Zoom, and she was cool, and she
Yeah.
loved what we had to share. And we taught that program together for 2 whole years.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was, she had been familiar with my work before. She never ever said anything like, "Hey, I saw you in da da da," or she just was very, she, you know,
Very
listen,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. She's one of those people, and you see this with her too. That's one thing I
Yeah.
admire about her.
Right.
I think she's got the heart of there's something about her heart that's almost like a child, in that she fans for people that she has great admiration for. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And that's in a very genuine way. And she was always very encouraging and loving. And so one day after we finished our first year of the lab teaching, it was a long day. We were on set with our mentees. I was shooting them, directing them. We were coaching them through some monologues. It was a very exciting, fulfilling day. The end of the day, I get a text, a DM from Lena being like, "I need you to reach out to Rishi." Rishi Rajani, who is her CEO. I was like, yeah, what's up? Because I've coached actors for her before. I was like, you need me to coach someone? She's like, no, no, no. It's about an opportunity. Reach
Mm,
out to Rishi. I was like, okay. Not my brain was in service, like fully in service mode. Because I
right.
love what I do as an educator, genuinely. Like this is what I also do. You know what I mean? Um, and I reached out to Rishi. I was like, hey, Rishi, what's up? How can I help? He said, so it's not about teaching. I was like, what? He said, it's not about coaching. I said, huh? He said, we got a role for you. We wrote a role for you. Lena loves you so much. She knows what you can do. She knows, the way that you work. She loves your work ethic and what you bring in environment. We wrote this role of Deja for you. And so would you be interested in joining us in another few months in Chicago? And I was like, would I be interested?
Right.
What
This is what I've been waiting for.
I've been waiting for? It's a dream of a lifetime. Just totally
Yeah.
answered. And I entered the whole, I'll be honest, I entered the whole situation, finding the whole teaching opportunity, grateful for our mentees, loving what, we were doing, loving our team. That was not even in my brain.
Right. Yeah. You had
And
moved past it at that point.
I had. But then the ship came back. You know
Right.
what I mean?
It
So
always comes back full circle. That's
comes
for
back
sure.
full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, just within your story, you put in the work and you showed Lena that you were dedicated, motivated. She could see that, okay, I need to keep this person around because
Yeah.
and you've helped so many more of her
Yes.
students, as a mentor, to these mentees.
Yeah.
So she saw the value in you, and so she figured she had to give you a role, and she waited for the right opportunity, the right time, and you are perfect as Deja.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about your teaching and your mentorship? Because this is kind of off script a little bit. I didn't have any questions for this.
Mhm.
But can you talk a little bit about what it is that you do teaching wise?
Absolutely. So, as actors, we can be jacks of all trades, but also I am a deep believer that as actors, we kind of should have multiple passions.
Yeah,
Um, and not just because of, waiting for jobs, but also for like deep fulfillment in our lives. Like we're human. As human, I say we're multi-prismic, right? And each side of us hits the sun a different way. So we have to have different sides. You see what I'm saying?
right.
And for me, while I was at Juilliard, I had a teacher that I worked with that I'm very, very grateful for. And in her classes, I had a lot of, so we didn't always see eye to eye, but I did find that I grew a lot from her. And I realized that there were tools that she gave me that I wanted to offer other students privately. So I started coaching students for acting training programs, for colleges, for high school, conservatory training programs when I was like in my last year at Juilliard.
Wow, wow.
And so by the time I finished school, I had like a whole like referral business. People would just be like, "Hey, Carolyn, I got like 3 students I want to send to you," and I would coach them into their grad school process.
Yeah,
Um, at this point, I've worked with, I would say, I mean, over hundreds at this point. I have students that have graduated from Yale, from Columbia University, from NYU. You know what I mean? One of our mentees just happened to get final callbacks to Juilliard this year. Like, that's
wow.
something that I really love. So for me, it was like I had people that poured into me, and pouring into these students has been also huge for me
Yeah,
outside of acting because it's a way for me to remind myself that like we all have multiple gifts and that if we are in service of those gifts, that's the most empowering, freeing, joyful place to be, being
right.
in service of those gifts. It's a real thing.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. At the end of the day, yes, is to be in servitude, and to give back, and by giving back, it's reciprocated back to you in different ways, and in this case, it was reciprocated back to you with the role of Deja.
Yeah. No idea. I had no idea. Thank you, Lena. And also to the whole team. Like really, like the whole team, like even Jason, I'm telling you, open arms. We had dinner before
Yes,
our first few days on set and we just
man.
got to know each other. He is the consummate. He's a consummate gentleman in every
Wow.
way, shape, and form. What a dream! He's truly a dream to work with.
We're trying to get Jason on the show. Jason, if you're watching,
I'll message him and be like, Jason, get on the show because he's great. He's great.
please. And that was one of my questions is, I'm hoping to still see more of that dynamic between Deja and Rashad.
Hmm.
Even though things were left off the way they were, I won't
Hmm.
speak on it because for folks who might not have caught up.
This is true.
But
That's
I'm really hoping that we get to see more of you guys in this next season,
hmm. Hmm.
the upcoming episodes.
Hmm.
Uh,
Can't spoil it. I can't spoil it.
no, I want to ask, is there, what can we expect to see,
Mm.
or, is there anything that you can tell us about the Shy? I know it's coming up.
Yes, yes. May 10th.
Mhm.
Everybody get ready. May 10th is going to be the final part of this sixth season, and there's a lot of activity happening in this second part of the sixth season. And in terms of Deja and Shad, I mean, you will see that there is an evolution to their
Okay.
dynamic. That's all. I'll put it that way because
Well,
evolution can be many things, right?
it can be, but I'm being hopeful because I love you guys.
I do too. I really love their dynamic, and I think it's funny because Lena and I have had conversations, and also some of the writers as well too. And I think that Deja is the kind of woman that we've all encountered, but we have not yet seen on screen before in terms of who she is, what she gives, in terms of a relationship. And I'm excited to see and to see how her connection with him evolves, but also how her connection with herself evolves.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that
I
make
was gonna
sense?
say, I feel like they could add more to your character,
Yeah,
and show a lot more dynamic there,
yeah,
and kind of build upon, both of your storylines even more. There's already a lot there, but I would love to see more for sure.
yes.
Um, what has it been like working with such an amazing cast from the show?
I mean, honestly, like it's one of my it's a dream gig. It's a dream job. I have to say, first of all, Rolando, I met Rolando years before we were on the show together. So we did a play at Ojai, a reading of a play, and he was so dope to work with then. You know what I'm saying? And then Jason's a dream. And then, it's funny, even like I find myself, I think sometimes people are surprised because they're watching the show and they're so rooted in storyline.
Mhm.
People think of the whole like Deja Tiara thing and they're like, ooh, like there's a lot of drama there. Look, Nia Jervier, she is one of the sweetest, warmest individuals. Like we have fun every time we're in Chicago. We'll go on walks, we'll catch up. It's I believe that true to the heart of Chicago,
Mhm.
the cast and the crew is comprised of down to earth, working class. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People who appreciate and love what they do and have respect for each other. Like,
Right.
to me, that's how it truly represents Chicago.
Yeah. It represents Chicago in the same that I told Rolando. It also represents family.
Yes.
I love the social dynamic, the conversations that you guys have. In a lot of spaces, we aren't able to have those conversations, such as having the men's group to where they're able to open up and be vulnerable, and just being able to have that dialect there and being able to share your emotions and what you're feeling. There's a lot that's relatable in the show, in every season, I feel, and to me each season has gotten stronger and stronger. The more you guys grow a bond and be around each other, you can see
Yeah.
that growth with every season.
Yeah. Yeah, there really is. And I think it's because as actors we're getting to know each other better. Like I think of even like, like Jacob and Burgundy. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the way they work together. I mean, I remember even we had that brief gallery scene and they almost have a shorthand in terms of language together. Just
Mhm.
off screen. They're
Right.
just tapped in,
Yeah.
and so every season you're getting more and more evidence of how deep that connection is growing. And I think that we're really blessed as a show to be in our sixth season to be able to have
Right.
developed that
Yeah.
because that's not a gift that all shows get, particularly Black shows. So,
Right. Yeah. I feel like The Shy is an important show to keep around because there's so many stories, so many different dynamics that you can speak from, and yeah, just the chemistry there is spot on. Do you ever take a step back and embrace the growth of your journey as an actor?
It's funny. I feel like I'm beginning to more and more now. It's so funny. I think this question could not have come at a more ideal time, honestly. I think I am more and more now. And I think it has to do with, I feel like I'm at more of a vantage point, for one.
Mhm.
I think that because of the transitions that are happening in the industry right now as well too, there's a little bit of time to like get quiet and reflect.
Right.
Um, and I just think that it makes me excited about if I've been able to do this and come to this point, what more does God have for me to do? Does that make sense? In that spirit of service, what other stories
Yeah.
and here can I continue to service with the Shy? And I just get excited. I get really, really excited and grateful. Yeah.
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 Each step of the way is just another step in the journey.
Yeah. This is true.
So it's always good to take a step back and embrace it. I know we always don't take that opportunity. We're so busy and on the go that we don't have time to
Yeah.
take a breath sometimes. But um, yeah, no, you have some pretty amazing accomplishments so far.
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to ask that question, because I always wonder, you know, from the actor standpoint and the actor's mind, how do they feel like they're doing within their career path? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I think in general, most actors don't stop to take a look back because we're so like next, 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 now, 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 that we literally forget to look back and be like, oh wow, okay, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
we forget to do that.
Yeah.
I do think it's a valuable thing to do for us as actors because we are having to maintain our perspective on past, present, and future, not just present and future, because past, not to sound esoteric, but past is really what influences this present experience and our future experience. So
Right.
if we can have gratitude looking back, that allows us some gratitude in the moment and some gratitude looking forward.
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
it's the shaping and molding for sure.
It's the shit. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what is the film Familiar Touch about?
Yes, yes. So Familiar Touch is a script. It's a full, very exciting feature length film that I shot last June, and it's about the story of an older woman. She's probably in her late 60s, early 70s, who's experiencing dementia. And her son has to make that difficult decision of like, okay, what should I do with her? And he has to put her into a home. But the
Mm.
story is really about the connection between this woman and her caregiver, her CNA, right, where she goes to this facility, and like somehow that friendships and deep connections can happen in the most surprise, like deep friendships can happen in the most surprising places.
Right.
Um, and I think it's a beautiful tribute to the care community and to the Alzheimer's community as well. My mother had Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
and when you're a caregiver and you take care of your parents at home, especially when they have Alzheimer's or dementia, there are things that only you get to see, that only you understand in terms of their
Absolutely.
relationship to time in the past, and Sarah Friedland, who's the director, she's also the writer. Sarah and I have cultivated a friendship since, my goodness, actually, my mother was in one of Sarah's films, and my mom's not an actress. Yes, yes. My mom was in one of her short films, and Sarah is a choreographer and director and writer. And we developed a really good friendship because we both worked with Steve McQueen some years back on a pilot of
Man.
called Codes of Conduct for HBO. So she was Steve's assistant, and we just hit it off. I was just like, "You dope." I mean, beyond this, let's just be friends. And
Yeah.
we developed that friendship in 2014. And
Mm.
then 9 years later, she wrote this script. And she was like, Carolyn, I can't think of anybody else to be in this role but you, based on how well I know your mom, based on our conversations about Alzheimer's and dementia and this community and what this community deserves in terms of representation
Yeah.
and care.
Mhm.
And I thought, of course, I would love to work with you,
Yeah.
because I love her work. So we did it last year and it should be out later this year. I don't have any official dates yet, but I will
Okay.
definitely let you know. It should be probably, I would say in the summer, we're going to be having a premiere in on the East Coast. So I'm very excited for
Okay.
that.
I was going to ask, was it going to be presented in any film festivals? But
Yes.
okay.
Right now, we're just waiting to get some word back on which one. So, but I'll let you know. I think, I don't know. I just have such a good feeling about it because I just feel like it's such a great message. And I'm like, these festivals, y'all can't miss this. Don't miss this story. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know,
And just the simple fact of it's a story about dementia. I feel you mentioned representation. Representation is definitely key, but also education, especially
yes,
within our community. We need to have more education on some of the illnesses and the ailments that us as Black people and people of color face more so than any other race. But
yes,
we don't really have the education to back it. But a lot of us deal with these things, and it's another issue that's relatable in a lot of households.
yeah.
My wife's grandmother has dementia,
Mhm.
and she's going through it now, and you can see it as as it's
Yes.
happening in real time. So, and not only that, there's another filmmaker that I know. His name is Cadell Cook. He has a project called Forgetting Christmas. It went through all of these film festivals, won a whole bunch of awards. It's produced by Victoria Rowell. I don't know if you know who
Love
Victoria
her. She
Rowell
lives
is.
in my neighborhood. Yeah, I run into her all the time. I love her.
Yes, and they made a film about dementia as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
very important. I feel like we need to have more films that showcase that representation and also provide education to within our community to let other people know what to do in these situations and how
Yes.
to react and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because it does, I mean, it does affect us disproportionately. You know what I mean? And there's a lot to learn about how to slow the progression because they're
Right.
making a lot of discoveries around that.
Mhm.
And what, what the stages are. It's funny because the last thing I'll say about it is that while we were working in some of my own research for the role, I
Mhm.
came upon, she is, I would say, an expert in the field. Her name is Teepa Snow, Teepa Snow.
Mm.
She does work on understanding the mind of someone who's experiencing, like, early onset, all the stages of dementia, and
Right.
how to really be present for them in a way that's not, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's not always a lot of empathy in
Right.
terms of how there's a lot of like, all right, they're not remembering, I'm
Yeah.
not, people can get very impatient. But
Yeah.
if you actually understand what's happening in their mind and you approach them with real care and the same level of curiosity that they in fact have,
Right.
then there's real connection. And so we are able to play with that in the film quite a bit, which excites me because that's, I believe, the most loving way to approach care for this experience.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would definitely love to be able to. I don't know if you guys are going to do screeners at all, but I would love to catch the film and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
As soon
would.
as we get it, yeah. You're based in DC. Are you based in DC? If we have
Well,
a,
Virginia, but yes, the DMV area.
I'll invite you to our screening when we
Okay.
have our screening in New York. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, most definitely. I'll be there.
That'd be great. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
So,
So you're signed to anonymous content for
yes.
representation.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to gain their partnership to further your career?
Absolutely. I mean, so I feel like you might see like a theme coming up in my life in terms of my creative life. For me, I feel like the theme is, and this for me, this is God. This is where I leave it. For me, I think it is about community. I think a lot of opportunities I'm grateful for have come my way because of community. So I work with James Jolie over at Anonymous, and actually, who plays Tiara, Nia Jervier.
Mm,
So she and I were on a walk in Chicago, in our fifth season, and I at the time had my agent, and yeah, I have a great. I'm happy with my agent,
mhm.
and but I was like, I feel like I need a manager, and she was like, oh, you know what? I mean, this is just how generous and warm she is as a spirit. She's so warm. She's like, I really think you'll hit it off with my manager, and that's not something that commonly happens among
Right,
actresses, actor. Period. Like people are like, you figure out your thing, I'll figure out my thing, and it's
right.
kind of like that's kind of the vibe sometimes. I was like, really, tell me more. She's like, oh, well, he's Caribbean. My family's from Trinidad and Tobago. And she's like, his family's from Haiti. And I just feel like energetically y'all will hit it off. And she's like, I'll be more than happy to make an introduction. I was like,
Mm,
oh my God, that's huge. But at the time, I don't think I was entirely ready. It wasn't until the end of the season that I was like, I think I'm ready now. Started
right.
my own search. And remember, she was like, and she said that, and we made the connection. And he is the one of the most wonderful additions to my professional artistic life for my spirit and for my business. I'm really grateful for James. He's really wonderful. It's really
Oh,
wonderful.
that's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. Um, Outside of acting, is there any other aspirations that you would love to pursue?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I feel like I've started working on sort of building a bit of a consulting company in terms of how I can bring the arts
Mm,
to other industries in a way to empower their voices, those who are looking to like grow in public speaking. And then, so that's been something that I've already begun. I'm really interested in producing. So I'm actually looking
okay.
to produce my first short. And so we already have the script ready for that. And I'm really excited about that.
Hmm.
So really producing, consulting, and then, I mean, who knows? Maybe when I retire, I move to like a tropical island somewhere and like just be a healer and like super zen
Okay.
out. Who knows? We got chapters of our lives. I'm open to all the chapters,
Right.
but I really feel like I feel like in this chapter though, this is my purpose,
Yeah.
and I feel honored that it is. And like, all right, every day counts. What can you do? How do you grow? Who do you influence? Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, to your point, as far as producing, you said you have a short film
Yeah.
that you're working on. What other projects have you produced, or are you just beginning this part of your
Just
career?
beginning this part. Yeah, I'm just beginning this part. So I'm even like, it's funny because to be at this point and I'm like, ooh, I have lots to learn. So like I've been, having conversations with other producers and like, filmmakers. And it's not so much, because I think directing is great too, but it's something about the like, how are you getting support process to
Right.
making a project
Mm,
that excites me. And not only that, I think, I will say at this point in my life, there's something about nurturing a thing. Nurturing a thing is a beautiful feeling. And I feel like that's what producers do. They
yeah.
are like the parent to a project. You know what I mean?
Right. You have to make sure that everything is falling in line. Make sure that the food's there,
Yeah.
people are arriving on time. How are they feeling? Do they have the
Mhm.
proper everything that
I'm,
they're supposed to have?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you make sure you corral everything and make sure that everything goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a special person to do that because you have to have patience.
It does. It does. You have to have patience. And I also realize you have to have people on your team that because it ultimately would be to be an active producer. So like even in this short, I know that my co-producer, she's someone that great, as soon as we have to start prep for this, that
Hmm.
I can step back a little bit. As soon as we, go and start getting ready to shoot, like she's got this. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so because we've done all the work preliminarily, does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I like that team, that trusted team aspect to
Okay.
it as well. I like that as well too.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, do you have a particular goal that you would like to accomplish within your career that you have yet to achieve?
I mean, I feel like that's an ever evolving thing. Honestly, I feel like it is kind of ever evolving. I mean, yes, I will say for sure, I'm excited to fully lead a feature film. I love independent film. I really love indie film.
Yeah.
I love it because I feel like it's a space for really authentic, unique voices.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that I would love to tackle some comedy because I love cracking a joke. and I feel like I'm funny in my mind, but I also feel like, with the right script, with the right direction, the right project, it could be the perfect alchemy for some good laughs. So I
Right.
really want to do some good comedy. So I would say like an independent feature to lead that, and also, to do some comedy and maybe to direct at some point too. I think of like people like Victoria Rowell, who had that amazing career on Young and the Restless for all those years. You know, we,
Man, yeah,
we saw her for years. She was
for
killing it,
years.
killing the
Yeah.
game.
She's still doing it,
Still is
Just
killing the game.
yeah, a lot of it is now she's starting to transition to behind the scenes, but
Yep.
she's definitely doing a lot there, which is admirable for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think of that, and that's a perfect example of chapters in an artist's life. You know what I mean? So, I looked at people like her. I looked at people like Tasha Smith, or you know what I mean. Of course, Ava.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, all right, great. I'm gonna take what I'm learning in this chapter, and
Mhm.
whatever's blossoming in the next chapter, I get to carry that along with me.
Right. Yep. And apply it, and yeah, go where it leads you.
Go where it leads you. Go
Yeah,
where it leads you.
absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me ask you, what's next for Carolyn Michelle Smith?
Yeah, yeah. So we're waiting to get word on the next season of The Shy, if that's happening. We're all like fingers crossed. So
Right.
everybody keep fingers crossed. And then, for right now, I'm auditioning a lot, which is good. Even in a kind of a quiet time right now in Hollywood, which is good.
Mhm.
Heading back to New York for a bit. So my whole, my whole original space was the theater. And so I'm
Right.
actually looking to create a, with some of my collaborative partners back in New York to
Okay.
create a piece. And so that maybe the producing angle can not just be for film and TV, but maybe I can produce for theater as well. So that's a new venture for me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what's next. Headed to New York and back home, back
Yeah.
home, you
Yeah.
know?
Do you mind if I ask one question about auditioning? And it's
Of course.
it's more so for me than it is for the interview, but I feel
Yeah,
like it's also something that maybe the audience might
yeah,
want to know. Now,
yeah.
when you audition, do you currently somebody in your stature, do you currently self tape or do more in person auditions? And I know during COVID, it was a lot of self tape and virtual. But now that we're on the opposite end of that and things have
Yes.
kind of gotten back to normal, what is your normal way of auditioning?
I still self tape quite a bit. I mean, I've gone in a few times post COVID. I mean, shockingly, I had my first in person audition probably about 2 months ago, and I was like, oh my god! I was just happy to be there. I dressed up more than I probably needed to for it. It was a whole moment. Casting director was like, "Well, I love your dress." I was like, "Thank you." It felt like it was a date for me. I was very excited. Not necessarily, but I was just happy to be there.
Mhm.
No, honestly, for me, I do more self tapes
Okay.
personally, and definitely Zoom auditions. I love those,
Okay.
because you still get to have some control in terms of your setup.
Right.
But then, you still have a scheduled appointment and you still get to get that feedback one on one with the casting director. So those
Right.
are kind of my favorite right now because there ain't no LA traffic
Right.
when you're
Exactly.
dealing with a Zoom audition. So I like that. I like that. But yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because I'm a part of what I'm trying to do here is figure out new and inventive ways to provide a new means of how auditions take place or
Uh huh.
casting. And in this era of technology and being
Yeah.
able to do things nationwide from your computer,
Yes.
worldwide from your computer, really. I'm trying to figure out new ways of doing so, and so I like
Mm.
to I like to ask questions and learn as it pertains to where is it lacking, so that way I
Mm.
can find a new way to, or find a solution um, to kind of fill that void.
I mean, I hate to break it to you. I don't think anything will ever beat an in-person audition. Nothing
Right.
will ever beat that. You
Yeah.
you know, you get so much information from even the way the person walks into the room. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Or how they listen to you. Like there's so much there but I will say that there is so much that you can do with technology and with Zoom, and it's just faster, it's more efficient.
Yeah.
So I already know whatever you're creating, like it's going to be it is the answer. Just trust that it is the answer.
It's one of the answers, and it's a big answer. I'm hoping that it takes off the way I'm envisioning it. But
Yeah.
I like to get insight from people who are actually doing it.
Yes.
And you are in a place to where you're not necessarily considered an independent actor or actress. You are a working SAG actor, um, and you. So I want to know kind of
What's
your
needed?
process, so that way I can figure things out on my end to
Yeah.
make it worthwhile for aspiring actors and other actors that come behind. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
and then not only that, just for other people of color who are looking to get into this business, and all the information is not readily available. I'm trying to find new ways to provide that information, or to provide a solution to where you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I feel like the one thing we do know about us is that we really thrive in community anyway. So simply the fact that you've built this space, you're going to draw on people who, are eager to learn and will learn from each other. And
Right.
then that's how we shine. Like we're
Right.
not just us as a race, we just don't do well by ourselves trying to figure things out.
Right.
So being able to provide this is a huge loving service to the
Yeah.
community. So thank you for
Absolutely. I just want to see more representation and see
yeah.
more of us in positions to where we don't have to hear the first black, the first this, the first this
Yeah.
anymore. And then not only that, all the people who are currently in this business, who have been working for 10, 15, 20 plus years at it, and you don't even know who they are.
Yes, yes, yeah,
So we have to figure out a way to where we provide spotlight and showcase all of those people, because
yeah.
they're the ones who actually paved the way, opened doors for us, so on and so forth. And
Mm,
they're leading the charge for the rest of us to come in. And so I
yes,
want to provide that bridge to make
yes.
that transition happen. You know what I mean?
So, thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so Carolyn, this is the part of the interview where I like to give my guests the final word,
Okay.
whether that's a piece of advice that you were given,
Mhm.
words of encouragement, or a quote that you like to live by. You can say all three, or you can choose one of the three. It's up to you.
Hmm. Maybe I have a blend. Maybe I have a little blend of um, something that someone once told me that I didn't quite understand in the moment, but I understand now, and I think it is something to live by, especially as an actor.
Mhm.
Um, so when I was in school, I remember I had a teacher who we used to do these like reviews, like these big like critique type situations. They were very scary. But one of my teachers was like a movement teacher, and I didn't know what he was going to tell me. I mean, I loved his class, but I didn't know what he was going to tell me. And he was like, Carolyn, one thing I really admire about you is you're so nimble. Like I was never really skinny. I was never ever skinny. So I was like, nimble how? But he was like, you're so nimble. And
Yeah.
I was like, nimble, what an interesting choice of a word.
Mm.
And but I took great pride in it. I was grateful that he said that. And then suddenly it hit me. I was like, oh wow, I think that is something that I've taken into my career and the way I look at this industry. I think the word nimble is not a word that we use often, but the definition is one who's able to be malleable and flexible and adaptive, right?
Yeah.
And I think I aspire to be even more nimble as my career goes on. And it's something that I encourage, emerging actors to be as well, because being nimble means you're not fixed to just one identity. I'm only an actor, or I'm
Right.
only this, only a producer, only. No, nimble
Yeah.
means you're allowing yourself the trust to be able to do it all, because being nimble requires trust. You're trusting gravity. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? On a
Yeah.
physical level, you're trusting gravity.
Yeah.
So you're trusting all the elements around you to support you in maintaining that adaptive nature. So
Mm.
stay nimble.
Stay nimble. Yeah.
Stay
I
nimble.
like that. Yeah. That's interesting. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but I like it. I really do. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your time, your expertise, your knowledge, your patience,
Mm.
and it was truly a pleasure to have you on. Um, I wish you nothing but the utmost success in your career. As you continue on, I'm going to continue to root for you from the sidelines, and watch you in everything that you do. I'm gonna try to catch everything. But yeah, I truly appreciate everything, and for your time.
This is great.
Carolyn,
Thank you.
Carolyn Michelle Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So cool.